Containing COVID. Let's go to the phones here and get Dave Lotz on. Good morning, Dave.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Chris
Good
and
to talk to both of you.
Yeah.
Half a day.
Half a day.
I guess we just start with this. Your appointment wasn't going to be renewed, and then you were able to. I heard you met with the governor, and so now you've been reappointed to your position on which of the historical boards is it, Dave?
Well, first of all, I do want to commend the governor. She invited me in, and we had a long, serious discussion, and so I do want to thank her. But I also want to thank a lot of the friends that have supported me on this. This is a rather unique board. It's officially the Guam Historic Preservation Review Board, but it also serves as a board for the Guam Preservation Trust, which is a non-profit government of Guam entity. The interesting thing about this board is when it fulfills its function as a review board, and therefore the membership is dictated by specific disciplines. These include the regular historic preservation disciplines of archaeology, architecture, and history. And then also our local law thought it was appropriate to add to that disciplines of Chamorro culture and planning. I happen to hold the primary planning position. It's also rather interesting that this board has alternate representatives, so when, say, a primary is not available for the meeting, we have alternates that are also go through the same appointment and confirmation process to also help the board in its continuity to function.
And you've been on this board, right, for quite some time, right?
This will be my third appointment. So each one is for 4 years. So yes, I've been there a while.
For more than a decade. And so what was it? Because I think I saw it online on your Facebook page. Gosh, I want to say maybe over a month ago, I think, where you were expressing your, I guess you could say, disappointment that you weren't reappointed.
Well,
or it appeared that you were going to be replaced.
And then I believe one of the media had asked the governor in a press conference if she was going to replace you, and the short answer was yes. I think it literally went down like that.
Well, I did see that. It was one of the early afternoon, basically COVID-19 briefings that the governor's been giving, and when she opened up for questions, that came up. But events and decisions have moved beyond that.
Right. And how did this happen? If she had publicly disclosed that it didn't appear that you were going to be reappointed, and you said that she had called you up to schedule a meeting?
Yes, her office called me up and asked that I come by and talk with her, which I did.
And after that meeting, you were reappointed. I mean, was she just concerned about, what was she concerned about in terms of not wanting to reappoint you?
Or was it a miscommunication or something?
I don't know if I can give you all the specific background on that. It might be more appropriate to get that from the governor's office. But I just explained my interest in historic preservation and some viewpoints on some timely topics.
And you know, that's something I want to kind of talk about, Dave, because I've enjoyed this, and I don't know how to label it. I don't know if because I haven't known you my whole life, but it kind of seems just coming from me, and I try to pay attention, but this late life activism that we're seeing come out from you, and again, I don't know if it's accurate, but I've read the hiking things. You've always been like the hiking guy. You've always had the books out, the trails and everything, and some of the stances that you've made in the last few years in terms of the military buildup, in terms of, like you said, historic preservation, I've loved that you've been very vocal.
Well, I do appreciate that, and I don't know if I would say it's all late life. There's a lot that I've been able to do when I had positions in the government of Guam and also the federal government, working internally. you can get some things done. But I do want to go back that in 1978 or 79, the Navy decided they needed a new ammunition pier, and they wanted to put it actually at the tip of Oroti Peninsula, where you have that Oroti Island and you have that lovely channel to snorkel in. I led a group in those days called Save Oroti's Beauty that had a lot of impact, and now you see the wharf has been moved inland on Oroti Peninsula to actually geographically to Adogan Point. So, and where things are appropriate, I think all of us need to express our viewpoints, and it's basically, we tend to think it's for the good of the island, and it's interesting on this military buildup issue. It's not that people are just against the military. It's just there are things the military wants to do that are not in our best interest and actually in the military's best interest. I'll go back to that Oroti Point ammunition pier. If they had put a slip as they had planned between the peninsula itself and Oroti Island, they could not have gotten ships in there because of the offshore currents and seas. So we actually forced them to come up with a better product.
Right.
Sometimes they just get up ahead of steam and don't quite understand what they're doing. And, too often decisions are being made off island. And I want to go to today. It seems like the COVID-19 has dominated the news, and it is a very, very important subject. But now, last week's Pacific Daily News had a nice little official ad that the Navy's finalized their MIT, environmental impact statement, and we also had some news coverage that the agreement between the Fish and Wildlife Service, the Geological Survey, and the Navy over basically the Navy taking control of half of what the Fish and Wildlife Service owns at Retidian Point, and that was done with virtually no input from the people of Guam. And when I met with the governor, I asked her about that, and she said she was informed of that but was not even requested to provide any input. So we've got some things happening that the Navy just keeps moving along, and it seems with the legitimate concern on COVID-19, I don't see why these issues can't be put aside until we can give more appropriate attention to that.
I think part of it is that the governor declared construction an essential activity at the beginning of the COVID. So construction, whether it's outside the fence line or inside the military fence line, never stopped. I know that she also said that at one of the press conferences. She said something along the lines of, as we speak, they're doing construction right now. And so that's why stuff has continued to move forward. But I agree. I think at the moment where we shut down our government and we said, oh, the SHPO is not essential. Guam EPA is not essential. All these agencies that have a stake in policing and reviewing what the military is doing or not doing. You're right. I think that the minute we shut their doors, we should just put a pause on everything.
Well, I think particularly that the planning aspects. Now, I understand once the military has construction contracts, there are going to be all sorts of other factors if it said just immediately halt construction. And as from a planning environmental point of view, those decisions have been made. So whether the shovel's in the ground this week or next month, it's been determined. A couple other aspects we've lost track of, and I believe they've both been deferred, but I cannot specifically state that I'm aware of this, is there was supposed to have been the annual military buildup programmatic agreement under historic preservation last month, and also there's supposed to be ongoing discussions relative to the MIT programmatic agreement. Now, I can only hope that those have been officially postponed, but we don't have that assurance.
Right.
So what are we doing now to reach out to the military and find out what they've been doing and what they've been up to? Are those discussions underway?
I'm actually unaware of that at this time. I think it might be appropriate for that question to be placed to the governor and the Guam Historic Preservation Officer.
Right.
Those would be the legitimate.
Is there?
I mean, you know
the
things, Dave. I mean, is the SHPO out there doing things? I mean, I assume they are now because we're reopened.
Well, that's a good question, and by the nature of the board I'm on, it doesn't have that oversight responsibility. It has specific legal functions that does not make it a management board such as you have at Guam Power Authority or other entities. So it has limited functions. It doesn't get into that aspect. It's rather limited. I don't mean to dodge a question, but
no, you're not. Yeah, Dave, I don't think you're a question dodger.
Okay.
Let me ask you this though, because this is something we had talked about last week. What was this talk about Dave Lotz and a senatorial run?
I've actually had a lot of people suggest that, and I appreciate their support. But I'm even though I go hiking, and I went hiking yesterday. I guess it's something to consider, but I'm actually a bit more concerned about. I got some health concerns.
I mean, but Dave, it can't be any harder. Being a senator, it can't be any harder than some of the hikes I see. You just went on some hikes this weekend that was more work than any of these senators did in a year.
Well, but you look at
some
what
of them.
senators do. I suspect they put in 10 to 12-hour days, and I'll commend them. And by the nature of Guam's politics, an awful lot of it is social obligations.
Right.
If you invite a senator to a function you're having and they don't show up, you don't vote for them next time. That's just the nature of Guam. The positive part is we're a close and open community.
Look what you guys are doing. You guys are alienating people who could be good candidates because they don't want to go to every christening and every
10 to 12-hour work days. Well, that's a lunch break for me. My God.
and then we criticize how much money they make. I wonder how much of it goes back to buying raffle tickets and things for christenings and so on.
No, the pay's got to go up. I agree with you on that.
Well, the pay is a whole other issue. The part-time becomes a whole other issue. I think both of them are distractions, but I think what we need is how do we make this attractive for the people we want to get there? Because the bottom line, and I think in general, when you see the 30 people that are on the ballot, I think in general, we probably choose the best 15.
I never vote for more than 5, Dave.
Well, okay. I don't think I voted for all 15, but
I mean, and by the time I get to 4 or 5, I'm really, really stretching.
But I mean, in general, our system only works by the people we put there, and if we don't like those people there, well, then look what we got coming in November.
Yeah.
September, right?
Yeah.
Or is it end of August?
I don't know.
Primary.
Well, there's a primary.
Yeah.
We whittle it down from whatever it is to 15 on each side, and then. So, anyways, I do want to say a few things about hiking.
Yeah, that's what we're.
It's a great way to get out and be healthy in this crisis and learn about Guam. You go hiking, you learn about our historic sites, our natural resources. It makes people motivated to protect them. But I've been going hiking. I've been going in very small groups. I think I had 4 people yesterday, and basically as a protection. And then we space ourselves out even on the trail.
Oh.
So just keep those ideas in mind. Keep your social spacing, no matter what activities you're engaged in.
Right.
So there was really no need to change any sort of protocols post-COVID for hiking?
I mean, do you wear a mask or what?
I'm not wearing a mask on the trail, but before that, I will do it. And I've also told people I very politely, I won't pick them up and have them go to my car. In my car, you just come to the trailhead, and they understand. So, but once you space yourself out, hey, you're outdoors in the nice breeze, and that's a bit different than shopping in the store.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So, Dave, in all your years of hiking, this is kind of a loaded question, and it's also a cheap attempt to wrap up with you. What are maybe a couple of the things that really stick out? Because, I mean, God, you've been hiking for...
Oh, and what's like your favorite hike?
Like, what, 50 years, Dave? Is that right?
Hey, you've hit something else. I came to Guam in the Navy on June 27th, 1970.
Wow.
So I got to have a party somewhere on the 27th.
Oh.
Well, yeah. Now, can I be one of the 24? You got to do raffle tickets for this thing, Dave.
Oh, now I'm starting something here.
Right? Yeah.
Well, but I'll have to have both of you come on the hike then.
I want to. Yeah,
okay,
definitely.
yes.
When we do something for the TV side. But Dave, yeah, again, what is one story that you think summarizes why you go hiking and why you encourage other people to do it?
I'm probably just going to reiterate the fact that it's a great way to learn about the island and motivate yourself. And I don't know. I've hiked all over a lot of places during my life. Even when I was going to college in Colorado, I went up to Rocky Mountain National Park and went hiking. So it's a challenge, but it's you challenge yourself and then you achieve something and you made a good day.
Well, what would you say is on all the hiking trails that you've been here on Guam is, I guess, Guam's best kept secret, I guess?
They're probably not so well best kept since they're in my book.
Okay. Well, which one would you highly recommend?
My favorite's Inaron Falls, and after that, Hilan Lost Pond.
Right.
Hilan Lost Pond.
But relating this to the military buildup, there's some great places to go on the military bases, but they've shut down their public access program due to the COVID crisis. But even before that, I've been very critical. Their public access program has too much
a lot of hoops,
bureaucratic.
Yeah. No, Dave, and I know because we had there was a story we did when they put out they're going to do a bunch of stuff at Fina Reservoir, right, with more bunkers, and it involved and part of the discussion was the laddie sets that they have down there at Fena, which I'm sure you've seen. And so I had called up Joint Region or one of the military, I forget which three-letter military group it was, but I was like, oh, hey, and it plays on the military channel. It says, hey, if you want to go see these sites, call this number and find out. So that's exactly what I did, because I figured, hey, if I'm going to tell people about these awesome pre-contact laddie sites, then I want to show them. And then you're right, if people see it, they care more. But, unfortunately, there are no tours. There are not even any pictures. Like, I asked the military, can you give me some, freaking pictures of the stuff, maybe? And there's nothing. So, you're right, public access, not where it should be.
And, the Navy, as far as I'm concerned, they hid a project name in their programmatic agreement and said there'll be adverse impact to this site, which turned out to be Magua Village.
Right. Yeah.
Keeping the information from the people, to me, is somewhat it's deliberate. If the people don't know it's their resource, then there's going to be less opposition.
Where are we with Magua?
Pardon?
Magua. What? Do you have an update on Magua?
That's up at NC.
Right.
Right.
I remember. I think you may have brought the
He was the
issue
guy
to light,
who
right?
found out
With
it was
the
bulldozed.
Right. Yeah. So, do you know what is the update on Magua?
It's been destroyed.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, after you brought this to light, has there been anything that's been done?
Well, there's been some artifact recovery and archaeology reports, and but and then I think we clearly did the wrong thing by buying into a redepository where you can put these artifacts in boxes and bags and put them on shelves. That's not really the same as actually visiting the place where people lived in the environment. And I've been working on a little paper. I should get this out sometime soon, more or less looking for a right forum to give you a clear perspective on the significance of an upland interior village. But people want to go see these places. They don't want to go read reports or visit artifacts. They're not the same thing. Historic preservation is just that, historic preservation.
Right.
And a little anecdotal comment. I had a job at Anderson dealing with preserving heritage, cultural, natural resources, and I remember when they floated the idea of a public access program. Great idea. And then I got the proposed regulations, and I was so upset I wrote back and said, whoever wrote this doesn't want it to happen. This was supposedly, this was written into the programmatic agreement in 2011, and the Admiral Joint Region did not sign off on the regulations in 2015. So, 4 years later, it just gives you an indication on some real, to me, lack of commitments.
Right, yeah. And that's kind of been what's tempered the whole process. Dave, thank you so much for your time. Now that we've done this, got the first time over with, let's bring you on every once in a while. I really like your perspective, and I think it's something that needs to be heard more.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. Just give me a heads up.
I know.
We'll do it.
I got to give you 3 days advance notice, and then call once, let it ring twice, hang up, let it ring 3 times, then call back. Gotcha.
Whatever the system that works.
Right, yeah. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks,
Hey, have a great day.
You
Bye.
too. Yeah, wash your hands. Okay, Dave Lotz there. Hey, we're going to take a little break and come back and end this show on a good note. Again, it's the KUAM News Takeover, Guam's favorite, containing COVID. Good morning.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.